Donald Trump's latest online post has caused a stir, raising eyebrows across the political spectrum. He claimed, "The Democrats are fighting hard to get rid of the popular vote in future elections. They want all future presidential elections to be based exclusively on the Electoral College." This statement is as surprising as it is ironic, given the Republican Party's historical reliance on the Electoral College to secure presidential victories despite losing the popular vote in several key elections. The comment marks a strange pivot for Trump, potentially signaling confusion, strategy, or both. The implications of Trump's statement are worth dissecting, especially in light of the ongoing debate surrounding the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact, NPVIC. The compact, which aims to ensure that the presidency goes to the candidate who wins the most votes nationwide, has been a central goal for Democrats seeking to align the electoral system with principles of direct democracy. Republicans, however, have steadfastly opposed this initiative, as the Electoral College has often given their candidates an edge. Trump's unexpected position raises two key questions. Does this reflect a deeper shift in Republican thinking? Or is it merely another instance of Trump's tendency to speak without a coherent strategy? Let's unpack the underlying dynamics. First, it is essential to note that Trump's claim that Democrats want to eliminate the popular vote is baseless. The Democratic Party has consistently advocated for reforms that prioritize the popular vote, including supporting the NPVIC. Trump's apparent hostility toward the Electoral College in this context is perplexing, given that it has been a cornerstone of Republican electoral strategy. The GOP has historically benefited from the Electoral College, notably in the 2000 election when George W. Bush lost the popular vote to Al Gore but won the presidency, and again in 2016 when Trump himself lost the popular vote to Hillary Clinton but secured an Electoral College victory. Despite Trump's recent success in claiming a plurality, not a majority, of the popular vote in the last election, it's unlikely that the Republican Party will abandon the Electoral College. It remains a crucial mechanism for maintaining their influence in presidential elections, particularly given the party's declining support in heavily populated urban centers. The circumstances in which the Electoral College has delivered victories for Republican candidates while the Democratic candidate won the popular vote, as in 2000 and 2016, highlight its significance as a political tool for the GOP. While Trump's post might seem to challenge Republican orthodoxy, it's worth considering that he may not fully grasp the implications of his own statement. Critics argue that Trump often speaks impulsively, without regard for the broader policy consequences of his words. This lack of coherence undermines the seriousness with which his statements are treated, both by the media and by political analysts. The media's handling of Trump's comments reflects this dynamic. As Mark Elias points out in Democracy Watch, the mainstream media often dismisses Trump's statements as unserious or irrelevant, assuming they lack policy weight. This contrasts sharply with how Democratic leaders are scrutinized, where even minor verbal missteps can become national controversies. For instance, imagine the uproar if Joe Biden or Kamala Harris publicly advocated for abolishing the popular vote. The backlash would be swift and severe. Yet, Trump's contradictory and seemingly uninformed statements often escape such scrutiny. The broader issue at play is the asymmetry in media accountability. Trump's comments on the Electoral College should provoke serious analysis and public discussion. Instead, they are often dismissed as the ramblings of an undisciplined political figure. This double standard not only skews public perception but also allows Trump to shape the narrative without facing the level of accountability that would typically apply to a figure of his stature. Meanwhile, Democrats continue to push for reforms that would prioritize the popular vote. In Florida, for example, a Democratic lawmaker recently introduced a bill to transition the state to a popular vote-based system. While the bill is unlikely to succeed in the Republican-controlled legislature, its introduction underscores the Democrats' commitment to advancing electoral reform. However, Republican lawmakers have shown little interest in embracing such changes, even when Trump's statements appear to align with the Democratic position. the likelihood of Republican-controlled states adopting the NPVIC remains slim. The compact requires states to pass laws pledging their electors to the winner of the national popular vote, but it only takes effect once states representing at least 270 electoral votes, the threshold needed to win the presidency, have joined. Currently, 17 states plus the District of Columbia, accounting for 209 electoral votes, have signed on. This leaves a significant gap that must be filled before the compact can become operational. Democrats have opportunities to advance the NPVIC in states where they hold legislative majorities, but the process is fraught with challenges. Even in Democratic-leaning states, achieving consensus on electoral reforms can be difficult, as evidenced by past legislative sessions in Nevada and Michigan. Democrats must act decisively when they have the chance to pass such reforms, seizing the moment when they control state legislatures and governorships. For Republicans, supporting the NPVIC would require a fundamental shift in strategy, one that seems unlikely given their reliance on the Electoral College. However, Trump's rhetoric could complicate the party's messaging. If Trump's comments gain traction among his base, Republican lawmakers may face pressure to reconcile their traditional stance with their leader's contradictory statements. This tension could create openings for Democrats to advance the conversation around electoral reform. Ultimately, the debate over the Electoral College and the popular vote reflects broader questions about the nature of American democracy. The current system, in which a candidate can win the presidency without winning the most votes, undermines the principle of one person, one vote, and contributes to public disillusionment with the political process. Reforming this system would not only address these concerns, but also enfranchise millions of voters in states that are currently overlooked in presidential campaigns. Trump's comments, while confusing and inconsistent, have brought renewed attention to the issue. Whether this will translate into meaningful change remains to be seen. For now, Democrats must continue to advocate for the NPVIC and other reforms, while holding Republicans accountable for their opposition to a more democratic electoral system. As the debate unfolds, the role of the media in shaping public understanding and ensuring accountability will be critical. The path forward requires vigilance, determination, and a willingness to confront the structural inequalities embedded in the Electoral College. Democrats must capitalize on opportunities to advance the popular vote, while Republicans must grapple with the contradictions in their own messaging. In this polarized political climate, achieving consensus on electoral reform may be an uphill battle, but the stakes for American democracy demand nothing less. The National Popular Vote Interstate Compact, NPVIC, represents one of the most significant efforts to reform the American electoral system. This initiative seeks to ensure that the presidency is awarded to the candidate who wins the popular vote nationwide, rather than relying on the traditional Electoral College system. As of now, 17 states and the District of Columbia have joined the compact, accounting for 209 electoral votes. However, the compact will only take effect once states representing a majority of the 538 electoral votes, 270 or more, commit to it. The key mechanism of the NPVIC is straightforward. Participating states pass laws binding their electors to the candidate who wins the national popular vote, but these laws only activate once the compact reaches the 270 vote threshold. Until then, the traditional state-by-state winner-take-all system remains in place. The current tally of 209 electoral votes within the compact leaves it 61 votes shy of implementation. This means that additional states must join for the compact to become a functioning reality, and much of the focus has turned to states with Democratic legislative majorities as the most likely candidates. Among the states that have not yet joined but are critical to this effort are Nevada, Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Virginia, North Carolina, and New Hampshire. Several of these states have demonstrated strong Democratic voting patterns in recent election cycles. For instance, Democrats have won Senate races and statewide offices in states like Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Arizona. These successes suggest a pathway for Democratic majorities to pass NPVIC legislation when they gain control of both legislative chambers and the governorship, often referred to as a Democratic trifecta. A key message to these states is that the opportunity to act may be fleeting. When Democrats achieve a trifecta, they should prioritize passing legislation to join the compact without delay. Nevada provides a cautionary tale. The state had the necessary trifecta but failed to pass the bill, and the opportunity was subsequently lost. Similarly, Virginia could present a chance in 2025 when the state's gubernatorial race could shift the balance of power. In Arizona, a Democratic trifecta is a possibility in upcoming election cycles, creating another potential opening to join the compact. The stakes of joining the NPVIC are high. Advocates argue that the compact would not only create a fairer electoral process, but also empower voters in states that are currently solidly red or blue. Under the existing Electoral College system, voters in heavily partisan states often feel their votes are inconsequential. For example, Republican voters in California and Democratic voters in Texas may feel disenfranchised because their votes do not influence the overall outcome due to their state's predictable voting patterns. The NPVIC addresses this issue by making every vote count equally, regardless of geography. Notably, Republican-controlled states pose the biggest challenge to the NPVIC's success. While most of the states that have joined the compact so far lean Democratic, bipartisan support is essential to achieving the 270-vote threshold. This is where recent developments in Florida become significant. If Florida Republicans, typically loyal to former President Donald Trump, were to align with his endorsement of the NPVIC, it could mark a turning point. Trump's support for the initiative has created a unique opening for Republicans to back the compact without appearing to betray their base. Florida alone holds 30 electoral votes, which would be a substantial boost toward reaching the 270-vote goal. The media's role in holding politicians accountable for their positions on the NPVIC cannot be overstated. Legacy media outlets have often been criticized for failing to scrutinize inconsistent or contradictory stances by politicians. For example, while Trump's support for the compact is notable, Republicans in Florida and other states must be pressed on whether they genuinely support this reform or merely use it as political posturing. Clear and consistent reporting on these dynamics is essential to informing voters and ensuring accountability. The pathway to victory for the NPVIC is still achievable, though challenging. States like Nevada, Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania remain key battlegrounds. Democrats have seen electoral success in these states, winning presidential races, Senate seats, and governorships within the last 2 election cycles. These victories demonstrate the potential for these states to join the compact if the political will exists. For instance, Michigan recently secured a Democratic trifecta, presenting an immediate opportunity to pass NPVIC legislation. Similarly, New Hampshire, Virginia, and North Carolina are within reach, provided Democrats can secure necessary legislative and executive control. Beyond the legislative strategy, proponents of the NPVIC emphasize the broader democratic benefits of the reform. By ensuring the presidency goes to the candidate who wins the most votes nationally, the compact strengthens the principle of one person, one vote. It also addresses the growing disillusionment among voters who feel their voices are marginalized in the current system. This reform could foster greater engagement and trust in the electoral process, particularly among younger and more diverse demographics who are often skeptical of the Electoral College. For Republicans, the NPVIC offers potential advantages as well. In solidly blue states like California, Republican voters would see their votes carry equal weight under a national popular vote system. This could incentivize Republican lawmakers in competitive or purple states to consider joining the compact, especially if they frame it as a means of empowering all voters rather than a partisan gambit. Highlighting these bipartisan benefits could be key to expanding support for the compact. However, achieving bipartisan support requires sustained advocacy and strategic campaigning. Organizations like Democracy Docket, led by figures such as Mark Elias, have been instrumental in raising awareness and mobilizing support for electoral reforms like the NPVIC. Through relentless efforts to hold lawmakers accountable and promote fair voting practices, these organizations play a crucial role in advancing the compact's goals. Media platforms and advocacy groups must continue to pressure lawmakers, particularly in states with the potential to join the compact, to act decisively when opportunities arise. Ultimately, the success of the NPVIC depends on a combination of legislative strategy, public engagement, and media accountability. Democrats must seize every chance to pass compact legislation in states where they have control, while advocates work to build bipartisan support in Republican-led states. With 209 electoral votes already committed and momentum building in key battlegrounds, the path to 270 is within reach, but only if stakeholders remain vigilant and proactive in their efforts.